Ancient Egypt, pre-dynastic. The ancient Egyptians kept really good records of their history, their culture, and their daily life. They wrote down pretty much everything they did. Well, maybe not everything, but we have quite a lot of information about ancient Egypt, especially when compared to other contemporary cultures. We know that the first dynasty started in around 3100 BC with King Minos and lasted until around 2800 BC, and then the second dynasty followed after that. But what happened before the dynasties? What was going on before the first dynasty? This is a bit of a problem for Egyptologists, because the written records don't go back that far. The earliest writing we have from Egypt dates only to the first dynasty, but archaeologists can still find artifacts that help them understand what was going on before the written records began. And so there's this long period before the first dynasty that we call the Pre-Dynastic Period. It lasted from around 6000 BC all the way until the first dynasty started around 3100 BC. That's almost 3,000 years. So it's a pretty big gap. What we know about this period comes mainly from archaeological finds, things like pottery, tools, weapons, jewelry, and things like that. And we also look at what was happening in neighboring areas during this time. One of the main theories Egyptologists have is that Egypt was kind of like an evolutionary ladder. There were several steps along the way, each more complex than the last, leading eventually to the civilization that we think of when we say ancient Egypt. Another theory is that there were several different cultures that kind of merged together during this time. But in order to understand those theories, let's go back to the beginning. We start off with the Naqada culture. This culture is named after the Egyptian city of Naqada, where many of the artifacts were found. This culture lasted from around 4000 BC until 3500 BC, and it's divided into three periods, Naqada I to II and the third. During Naqada Y, the people were mostly nomadic. They lived in small settlements and moved around a lot. They hunted animals and grew crops, mostly wheat and barley. During Naqada II, the people started to live in one place. They built bigger houses and started raising cattle. They also had a system of writing, but it wasn't the hieroglyphic system that we think of when we say Egyptian writing. It was a kind of proto-hieroglyphic system. It was also during this time period that the first female pharaohs emerged. We don't know much about them, but they may have ruled over a small kingdom in the area of Thebes. During Naqada III, the people became wealthier and more powerful. They built huge tombs for their dead, decorated with beautiful artwork. Some of the tombs even had secret passageways and hidden chambers. The most famous artifact from this time period is the Narmer palette. It's a limestone palette, about 2 feet by 2 feet, decorated with a picture of a pharaoh wearing a crown and holding a scepter. The pharaoh is standing in front of 2 captives. On the other side of the palette is a bull head wearing a royal beard. The bull was a symbol of Lower Egypt, and the double crown symbolized the union of Upper and Lower Egypt. Some scholars believe that this palette was created to commemorate the first king of unified Egypt, King Menes. So these three periods of the Naqada culture represent the first step on our evolutionary ladder. But there was another culture emerging at the same time. This was the Old Kingdom of Egypt. The Old Kingdom is divided into three periods, early, middle, and late. But unlike the Naqada culture, which was centered in the south, the Old Kingdom was centered in the north. The two cultures kind of overlapped for a while, and there's a lot of debate among Egyptologists about exactly how and why they merged into one. But we do know that the early kings of Egypt claimed to be descended from the kings of the Old Kingdom. So there was definitely some sort of connection there. As we move through the various periods of the Old Kingdom, we see more and more political organization, wealth, and power. The Egyptian kings, or pharaohs, became gods of the Egyptians, and their tombs became more elaborate. In fact, the biggest and most impressive pyramids were built during the Old Kingdom. The most famous are probably the pyramids of Giza. But there are dozens of other pyramids from this time period. Many of them are bigger than the pyramids at Giza. So there you have it. You've just taken a whirlwind tour through almost 3,000 years of Egyptian history. Of course, there's a lot more to learn if you want to know more about the ancient Egyptians. Just keep watching. I'll be here.